Okay, good evening everybody. Thank you for coming here and thank you for the organizers. I was actually very thrilled to be invited here because I heard from people quite many things about the Amsterdam meetup, and so far it's very impressive. So the level of talks here is quite high. I'm going to speak today about the DAO of Bisq. Bisq is an open source community project for non-profit that goes on since already 3 years. We have a software in production with users. And we are going to add in the next 2-3 months an element called a DAO. And I think that now after the previous talk, everybody knows what a DAO is. It saved me a lot of introduction. A few words about myself. I'm Eyal. I'm from Israel originally. I live in Berlin. I got a PhD in mathematics, but in the area of dynamical systems and differential equations from the analysis point of view. So it's not much related to cryptography and consensus algorithms or blockchain. But in the next few years, I kind of shifted slowly, specific to consensus algorithms, blockchain, a bit of cryptography, if I'm not an expert. And that's it. Bisq. So I always begin asking that, like, how many people here have heard of Bisq? If you can raise your hands. That's a very good crowd. Yeah, it's a good amount. Bisq is a peer-to-peer marketplace for Bitcoin. So you can trade Bitcoin with other assets. Currently, it's Bitcoin with currencies, and I mean Bitcoin with cryptocurrencies. You can trade Bitcoin with Monero or Bitcoin with fiat. So you can trade Bitcoin with euros, Bitcoin with dollars. There's a thing that in the Bisq website and lots of the community call it an exchange, and that's the thing about a decentralized project. Each one of us has a bit different view. We don't work for a company that tells us what to think. I notice that when I speak to people and tell them a peer-to-peer exchange, it confuses them. They think of a place that you go and you buy and you sell very quickly. They think of an operator. And Bisq is special because it is a software. So from the moment that you download the software, we are out of the picture. So the people who made the software. You've got a peer-to-peer network in which you communicate with other people who use the software. We don't know what you do. We cannot control what you do. We are out of the picture. And that's, for me, a marketplace. It's like you go to the market, you introduce people here through the P2P network, and you do some kind of exchange with them. It gives you a few things. First, it gives you privacy. So, I mean, privacy, not anonymity, because if you exchange with someone, the other person knows that you exchange with him, especially if you do fiat, or if you do some kind of, I don't know, asset which we don't have yet, like a car. They do know who you are, but only they know who you are. So it remains private, doesn't leak out. The other thing that it gives is kind of security. So security, both in the sense that nobody controls your assets, that the regular decentralized marketplace, decentralized exchange thing. But more important for me is security that my data will not leak. Because assume that I would be a person who has many Bitcoins and I trade them, I would be quite scared for this information to be leaked for anybody else, because Bitcoin is something that people hold in their home, on their computer. I would just feel that I'm in a risk. And we live in an era where websites leaked. They sell data, they're being hacked. This is the security that Bisq gives you. There is no data to leak because nobody holds the data. It is a software, not a service. And the last thing, of course, that it's a censorship resistance for the exact same reasons. You meet people, nobody can control what you do. Once you got the software, we are out of the picture. Yeah, I was about to ask who knows what's a DAO, but obviously right now everybody knows what is a DAO. Thank you, Daniel. A DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. Did you actually say that? Once. So fast that I didn't notice. Organization is a group of people, basically, that works together towards a big period of time and have some common goal. And I mean, if you are doing something with your friends, usually you begin and you have some common goal. You don't There's not really money involved. There are no assets. There is no matter of trust. So you just do it without any contract, and you just trust each other. But if organization, if the group becomes big enough and becomes too serious, then usually you need to start add some kind of trust. And what people do, I mean, that's the classical thing, is then to choose some jurisdiction and go to the jurisdiction and register yourself as organization. And then if somebody, and make some protocol or rules or constitution or founding contract or whatever. And then if something goes wrong, you have the jurisdiction, the state, the country to go to and to take whoever did something wrong to court, and they will fix it. And that's a great model because it's worked since many years, and it's a problem for our organization like Bisq, or for a community like Bisq, because Bisq is not an organization. Bisq is a collection of individuals from all over the world. So I am right now from EU, originally from Israel. We have people from Israel, from USA, from other parts of the world. We have people that we don't know who they are. And if we would like right now to register an organization, I wouldn't know where to do that. So if we choose some jurisdiction, it will give advantage to some members of the community over others, because they will be in the jurisdiction, the others are not. Other thing is that jurisdiction requires, organization usually requires a bank account. We don't have a bank account. We just have cryptocurrencies. We also don't really have so much income, to be honest, because it's a non-profit project, but we'll speak about it in a second. So what we do with a DAO is we take the whole legal framework and we try to replace it with cryptography, protocols, peer-to-peer, and all this kind of stuff. That's the idea, that you get the same functionality with a different set of tools so that you don't have to register an organization. And then you can say, well, why the hell do you need a DAO? You just began by saying that Bisq is a non-profit project, so what's the issue? And for this, I have three answers. One of them, that though we are non-profit projects, we do have assets. A Twitter account is an asset, the website is an asset, etc., etc. And people manage this asset, and this is something that we don't want to be abused, so that's one of the things that the Bisq DAO does. The other thing is that we also have people from the community giving service to other people from the community. So we don't want this to be abused, and the DAO kind of lets you buy reputation. So you can give a service, and if you abuse the service, you have to sell the reputation. And the last thing is that this Bisq marketplace is done in a very, very charged area where the decisions of the developments makes a difference. So what developers choose as a default can really influence stuff. And we don't want this power. So what the DAO does is let you decentralize the development decision. Makes it like a bit more fair. Don't let one developer or a small group of developers take control. Yeah, I would like to go now right into the DAO, but I can't speak about the DAO before I speak about Bisq. So chapter 1, Bisq. I heard about Bisq for actually 2015. I met Manfred Korer, the co-founder of Bisq, but I was not involved until about a year and a half ago in this place. That's a hackerspace, or they call themselves an Institute for Crypto Anarchy in Prague. They have a conference every year in October. And there was a talk about Bisq of another co-founder of Bisq called Chris Beams, and afterwards I got involved especially in designing of the DAO. And I'm just telling about this place because I love this conference. I think it's a very interesting place to be exposed to projects like Bisq. So just take as a recommendation. I was already telling Daniel that he has a sticker of this place on his laptop, apparently because they gave him free coffee, which is also a good reason. They have good coffee. They have a cafe there that you can only pay with cryptocurrencies. It was Bitcoin and Litecoin, and maybe also Monero. I'm not so sure. That's what Bisq looks like. That's a screenshot from the software. No big surprises here. I mean, if you saw one exchange, that's what exchanges look like. The thing that differs here is what happens in the background. So what happens in the background is that you don't have a server, you communicate with a peer-to-peer network. The other difference is what happens. So here you see offers and asks and bids, and what happens when two people agree on a trade. Because you don't have the whole fair trusted party to arrange the trade, so what happens? And for this, I'm going to show a small demonstration. That's me. That's a picture that a friend of mine did of me when I was 20. I already didn't have much hair, but I still didn't have a hat. And I want to buy Bitcoin. So I open Bisq and I broadcast in the peer-to-peer network a request to buy Bitcoin, and some internet stranger comes to me and tells me that he wants, or she, or it wants to sell me Bitcoin. And I don't know how the internet stranger looks like, so I assume it looks like this. Because I don't trust internet strangers and neither should you. And then we agree on a price. I give him 100 euros, he gives me 0.1 Bitcoin, which is a fantastic rate for me. Yeah. So cheers. We agree on that, and then there is kind of a protocol of how to do this transaction. And for this protocol, we go to the Bisq software and ask the software what to do. And the first thing that the software tells you to do, first I put a tie. It's very important because, it's business things, it's serious things, now it's 100 euro. With a tie, I go to the software and I open a multi-sig account in Bitcoin. So the software already has like a Bitcoin wallet embedded inside. We use Bitcoin J. All of Bisq is written in Java. So that's something that some people love because Java programmers and other people who are hardcore hackers hate, but that's what we got. Inside of the multi-sig account, we put the 0.1 Bitcoin that the stranger wants to give me, plus security deposits. I put security deposit because the stranger already just locked from some coins. He doesn't want me to disappear. It's a multi-sig account. And he put there some deposit as well for later on. And when you see this, you can already say, wait, if I have to put a security deposit in Bitcoins, it means that I cannot buy Bitcoin unless I already have some Bitcoin. And that's absolutely correct. Because Bisq is a software for people who, it cannot be so user-friendly and decentralized and secure and all of this stuff in the same time. We need a security deposit for our protocols. I wouldn't know how to change the protocol otherwise. Good, now this multi-sig account exists, and we go back to the software. The software tells now me what to do. It tells me, go to the bank, give the bank 100 euros, and the bank will give the 100 euros to the internet stranger. So now he has an internet stranger got 100 euros. There's still a multi-sig account that he needs to give me the money. Then the internet stranger goes to the program and says, hey, I want my deposit back, because he also put there a security deposit. The Bisq software tells the internet stranger to speak with me and makes this transaction that I get my Bitcoin plus deposit, internet stranger gets the deposit. This is a simplified protocol, so there are security researchers here. This version got some bugs, but it's the easiest to explain. The thing is that we also have got like 1,000 and other security measures inside of the protocol. Beside the deposit, we got kind of, at the moment, arbitration process in case that something happens, or a mediation process, which we are shifting to in the future. Also, if you change Bitcoin with fiat, you are quite limited by the amount that you can do. So it goes by time. First month, I think you can do 400 euros per trade, and second month you can do more, etc., etc. So that if somebody does anything bad, it's quite limited, and so on and so forth. And I think that right now the protocol is quite mature. We don't add to it so much at the moment. The next big thing that we add is mediation, but that's a completely different lecture, so we're going to leave it here. Bisq was thought about in the beginning of 2014, right after the Mt. Gox hack, for people here who probably heard about it. I'm not sure if there is a connection, because I was not involved back then. It was about 2 years of development, and then the first version was released in the beginning of 2016, and nobody used it, of course, because that's how it goes with such things. With time, the usage grew. There was, of course, a jump in December 2017, like the whole area that jumped, then going a bit down, and recently it went up quite well, I think to $6-7 million a month in total of tradings. In December and November, a lot of stuff came from the Monero community who discovered Bisq, and then I know that they will recommend each other in the forums. In January, which is not in this graph, Green Coin was released, and Bisq was one of the places to be traded. So I'm not a trader, but I was curious how you can buy Green Coin, what's the price, and then I went to the Green Coin Reddit, and I saw that they recommended to use Bisq, and I was like, oh, I know Bisq. That's quite cool. I also think that now it's a good time to join. So if there are people here who are doing anything from software development, especially in Java, but also writing documentation, community building, and everything, that's a good time to join the Bisq community. First, because we are a bunch of smiley faces. And we are very nice. And the other thing is because when I first started to work with Bisq, the community was quite small and there was not much human interaction. We had a Slack, which was sleepy. But it really grew up recently. I mean, we have now like weekly meeting of the developers. There is a lot going on. So it's not boring. It's really exciting to see all these things happening, and there is a lot to do. But in the same time, it's not so big that you cannot follow, which for me is important because when I go to a project which just become too huge, usually I leave. I don't like to spend all my time following all the channels and stuff like this. So please come to our Slack channel, come to speak with me afterwards. Yeah, it's a fun, interesting community project. And now that we all know what is Bisq, we can speak about this DAO. So we already spoke about why from one point of view, but there is also another point of view of why do we need DAOs in general. And the story goes like this. It's like you work at your home on a project. It's a small thing, some idea that you had. You make some kind of, I don't know, a small demo, you show to your friends, and suddenly they join. So now you have 3 people. You release an MVP or something, or alpha, version 0.01. People in the internet like it. Other people join. You get some users, and then more people join, and more people join, and more people join, until eventually this happens. And this goes in every, so I really spend a lot of time in the open source world, and it goes in all of them. So Bitcoin was all kumbaya in the beginning, and now it's all fights. Ethereum, I'm not sure how it was. I stopped following when it still was like all fun. But I think at some point they start fighting. And Monero, I still think right now is very friendly and everything is going well. But if it will be so popular, they all will also start fight because that's how human goes. And it's not because engineers or developers or mathematicians are bad socially. It's because we are humans. So there is this book, which I just read like 3 months ago, and I loved it. It's by Yuval Noah Harari, who is like a poster child of the Israeli history world. There is a course in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, which is called Introduction to the History of the World, and it was given by dozens of professors, each of them teaching the area that he specializes, and then Yuval Noah Harari is the first one who was teaching all of them. It's like the whole course from beginning till end. And one of the small things that he says in this course is how did human institution began. And he speaks about societies and groups, and he said that with direct communication, without any structure, you can only be so far. So if he gives her a number, I don't know, 50, 80, 100, maybe in the internet the number is different, but at some point we need a structure. And then one way to get a structure, as I said before, is the traditional organization. It's problematic for Bisq from all the reasons that I mentioned. Another one is to use an online platform. I mean, so GitHub has organization thing that we are using, and you can make like more sophisticated stuff that would like to do all this decentralization thing that we want in Bisq. I'm pretty sure you can make a platform for it. But my experience with platform is that it's good for the short time. So every platform that I was ever using, I liked it for a few months, and then at some point, after half a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, they did something which annoyed me and caused me lots of problems, and I had sometimes I could just leave, sometimes I had problems of leaving, so now I have problem with my Flickr, which was free for a long time, but now I start to charge money, and migrating from Flickr and changing all the links in all of my websites is not so easy. So I would love, if it would be my choice, I would do everything alone in the internet, but I can't, because I cannot run a server myself. I mean, it's impossible nowadays. You must use services in the internet, but as a group, you don't have to. So as a group, you have the possibility to actually do everything your own. And the peer-to-peer way that we are making the DAO is one of those ways of doing things our own without using servers, without using anything. I think that it makes the whole organization thing sustainable. So if you think for a time scale of a year, 2, 3, you can use a service. But when you make an organization, you want it to run forever. And then doing it alone makes it easier. As long as people are part of it, it will run. Nothing stopped. The peer-to-peer network will keep on going. Second question is what? So, we got a DAO. What exactly do we do? For this I got screenshots. I want to do a live demonstration, but I realized that it's in a test version. Until I launch it and still start moving, it will all be, wait a second, so I just got screenshots. What we do here is compensation requests. So we have some tokens of the DAOs, which I'm going to speak about soon. Not so much because I don't like to concentrate on tokens. But every time that I contribute something, let's say design of a DAO document, in the end of the month, we have some time where we submit compensation requests and we ask in return for Bisq tokens. Right now, we kind of decided arbitrarily that one Bisq token equals $1, etc. We do it since, I think that more than a year and a half, almost 2 years, using an Excel sheet. In the last month, we started to use the DAO in the test version, which means it's still not enforceable and nothing, but it's just for us to test it out. So you can do compensation requests. Like here's me asking for 100,000 Bisq for my compensation. And here's the community rejecting my offer because apparently I more tell jokes than actually contribute. If you notice, there is like 3 phases here. There is the proposal phase, where you ask for stuff. There is the blind vote phase, where you vote on stuff blindly for, I think, quite obvious reasons, so nobody would be able to manipulate. And then there is the vote reveal. Other stuff that you can do besides compensations is bonds. So if you want some kind of job in the organization, Twitter operators, being a mediator for trades that went wrong, etc., you can put a bond such that if you do something wrong, this bond can be taken from you. So if you abuse it, if somebody complains, he can have a confiscation request for your bond. You can also bond reputation. So if you want to trade like bigger amounts, you can bond reputation, you can deposit a bit of money, and then if you cheated in the trade and the risk is too big, it can be taken from you. I think that we also have this, that's very important because Bisq is a peer-to-peer marketplace for Bitcoin against some assets. We don't want to decide what are the assets. So it's not for the developers to decide, it's for the community. So once the DAO launched, to add an asset, to remove an asset would be like a request to the DAO. And we also have all kind of protocol parameters, which means that if many stuff you would like to update in the future, first it will be like a community decision, not one person, and B, it can be not a fork, which is great. There's lots of interest in DAOs in general. So that's a tweet from Alex van der Sande, which is a Ethereum developer. It was from 2 weeks ago, and he said that 2019 might just be the year of the new DAO on Ethereum. I would like to highlight a few chain governance experiments that I'm excited about. And then that's actually a very, very nice tweet chain because he goes and he says like all the projects, and each of them he sums out in a few lines what they do. And I actually like read the white papers of most of our projects, and the white paper is long, and like the governance models are amazingly complicated, which is understandable because they don't use the jurisdiction, they use some other thing. So they need a new method to govern, that's fine. But his tweet like really sorted things out for me. We are not on Ethereum and we are not on-chain, which I'll say in a second, but it means that I have to speak about our governance model. So we go for meritocracy, which means that people who vote are people who contributed. That's why you get tokens by contributing. It means that basically decisions are accepted by voting. Then the question becomes, who can vote? Well, if you have tokens, you can vote. Who can get tokens? You get tokens by contributing, but you can also transfer tokens. The token transaction is not being done by the Bisq DAO. It's a call-out coin on Bitcoin. I call it outsourcing. And the reason is that the Bisq DAO is very slow. Until the DAO reaches a decision, it takes like a month. You cannot do it for transactions. So we use call-out coin. It also means that there will be, so I mean, once the coins are tradable, there will be some price for it, which means that it will be interesting to see how many of the contributors will keep it, and if the community really remains the one with the majority of the coin that accepts the decision. my hope that yes, especially because right now the initial distribution of the coin is based on people who contributed in the last 2 years, which is people who did it out of their free time. I don't have many coins, so that's important to say. I don't have it intentionally because I don't want to be biased by having coin and thinking about money. But the people who contributed, I mean, they did it without expecting anything in return. Nobody knows if this coin will be worth 0 or 100, and probably not 100, at least in my opinion. So we hope that because the initial distribution is good, that the dynamics will also be good. There is also a thing that a DAO is not a blockchain, which means that we don't promise immutability. It represents a trust in the community. And if in some point everybody sells their token, which means very bad community, and now the DAO starts to make very bad decisions, that the developers can decide to switch to use another DAO or to open a new community. It's not blockchain. It doesn't represent like a promise in trust in miners. It's trust in communities. It's a very different concept. Yeah, the implementation. So I don't have time to go over the protocol, unfortunately, but I can say that the most important thing for me here is a second order DAO. And this means, the question is what does it mean? Because second order is used mostly for Lightning Network or payment channels and stuff like this, but for a DAO a bit less, though, I mean, I did see some people using this term. And basically it means that we don't store the organization data on the main chain, on the blockchain. What we do, so to say what we do, I have to give one point of view of what a DAO is. If you disagree with it, it's fine. There are many ways to look at it. But in general, a DAO organization can be thought about, especially our DAO, as a series of records of decisions. And then the records can be ordered. So what was first, what was last, and it's important to know what is the last one, sometimes to know if somebody is a member or not, etc., etc. Plus you have organization rules, which is a protocol. And in a first order DAO, you put all of this data on the blockchain, and you're not scalable even a little bit, because I don't think that public blockchains can handle really like so much data nowadays. And in a second order DAO, what you do is you put hashes, like really many hashes. We put a hash for every proposal, and a hash for every vote, and a hash for every block, etc., etc. And then the question, does it make it scalable? I mean, it makes it more scalable. It's definitely scalable enough for our needs. So we are, even if we reach a few hundred people, Bitcoin can still handle all those small transactions. So for our needs, it's enough. For Google needs, it's not enough. If you have now 1,000 organizations like Bisq, I will have to do the calculation if it's enough or not. But it makes it more scalable, and especially Bisq has a very nice spirit, which is one of the reasons that that I joined it in the beginning, is that they use what works right now. This is one reason, for example, that Bisq doesn't use SegWit, which is terrible, but the Bitcoin J library doesn't have SegWit at the moment, and we want to keep on going forward with what exists. When they will have a Bitcoin J for Java library with SegWit, we will use it, but really the spirit is to use what exists now, and this would work now and probably in the foreseeable future. If the DAO would be a huge success, then we will see many DAOs, and then probably it won't be scalable enough, but good enough for us now. So I don't have time to really go to the algorithm, because this will take probably another 40 minutes. If you're curious about the DAO from a non-technical point of view, go here. So this basically have all the links. It's a good starting point. It also have links for very technical protocols of the DAO. I wrote like a cute high-level analysis. It's 5 or 6 pages, which explains the protocol in a high level. I put it in my GitHub docs. You can go there for, I would say, a theoretical high-level short description. It gives you some stuff. And I think that's it. So thank you.
Any questions?
Hi, thanks for this nice presentation. I was wondering if you said the protocol of the exchange is anonymous, but not
Private, but not anonymous.
private, not anonymous. What does the other party knows about you? I mean, I thought maybe only your bank account and name, maybe, or is there more that?
No, that's it. But this is already loses anonymity for. I mean, unless you have a bank account under a fake name, but I don't go into that. It loses anonymity if you transfer Bitcoin and Ethereum, then it is pseudo-anonymous, like always.
Okay, thanks.
You mentioned the deposit is a kind of a safety for Bisq itself. Is that deposit in some way tied to the transaction amount?
It's a good question. Right now, no. Right now, it's a fixed deposit, which I think I don't remember how high is it right now because those parameters keep on changing based on experience. I would say it's almost arbitrary right now. When the DAO will begin running, one of the things that will be voted there is how high to make the deposit. And in general, you can also vote for the DAO if to make it dependent on the size of the transaction, which is the reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. Now, the reason I asked, because my other question would be, is the deposit negotiated between the parties, but it's not.
No. There's also, so it's the current version of Bisq. There is no negotiation, there is no conversation between the parties, there is no chatting. We blocked it originally because people were afraid of social engineering. Now we realize that maybe it was a mistake and we are bringing it back in the next change of the trading protocol. Is
there a question at the back?
Hi, so Manfred Karre, who I think started Bisq, might even, I think it was called differently back then. But
Bisq, sorry.
Okay.
Bisq.
Back in the day, his assumption was that people would make money on dispute resolution, and a part of that money would go to the developers. Is that still the current model?
No. So dispute resolution model completely going to be changes. I don't know if with the release of the DAO or shortly after, there will still be arbitrators, which will be very expensive in order to. We are a bit afraid of arbitrators. It creates a big risk, and we prefer people not to use it. What you will have is mediators, and you will pay something for the mediators, but the money will go. Is it me that do those beeps? The money will go to the mediators, not to the developers. Developers will be compensated with Bisq tokens.
But you can issue Bisq tokens indefinitely. But what makes up the demand for Bisq tokens? There's issuance, and then it needs to be destroyed somewhere. So somewhere there needs to be actual demand for Bisq.
Yeah. That's why I was keeping some details. So first, Bisq tokens are being burned when you vote. You have to use Bisq tokens to vote, such that people who really care would vote, and they are being burned. Another time that they are burned is, so they don't pay the mediators directly with Bisq tokens, they burn the Bisq tokens, and then the mediators also get compensated from the DAO. So there is the more trades you do, the more you burn Bisq tokens, and the more you vote, the more Bisq tokens are burned.
Oh, you burn by doing a trade, so it's kind of fee you actually charge.
Yes, if you want to use the mediators or the arbitrators.
Okay.
Yeah. There is also a thing that, so I think the whole economical model is that the community decides on the fly kind of how many Bisq tokens to issue every month. There is like a hard limit on the protocol, but it's more that really the community, so the hard limit is like really against ridiculous hacks. The community would have to decide how many. And if the community will go crazy and issue a lot, then it will take the price of the coin down.
Okay, so it's an interesting monetary experiment that we'll see happen live.
I think it's a very interesting experiment in general. First point from participation. Once people participate, then we see the rest. But yeah.
Okay.
Hello. Thanks for the presentation. I have one question. You showed a slide on which you had some metrics on the currencies being used. So as a Bisq user, I value my privacy and anonymity. What else does the Bisq organization has in terms of metrics?
So you mean
Uh,
this, or you mean the graph?
the Bitcoin to Monero or the volume, etc.
Oh yeah. That's a good question. It's temporarily with the current trading protocol. So the thing with the current trading protocol, that's why I also say that the trading model was simplified. Right now, you don't have a 2 of 2 multisig. You have a 2 of 3, where the third person is an arbitrator, and this goes to the revenue model that you spoke about, that arbitrators get the trading fees, etc., etc. Which means you can look at the blockchain and you can see where, like, the arbitrators had a multisig, and then you know which transactions were in Bisq. We are changing that completely. We are moving to like a pre-signed transactions, kind of Lightning Network style. So then any transaction in which the arbitrator or mediator will not be, actually there will not be no dispute, will not be visible on the blockchain. And then I think we lose our statistics. But,
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Eyal, for your presentation. Looks really promising, Bisq. Everyone, go check it out. Please give him an applause.